A lot of questions about what happened, the biggest one being this idea that this is a tentative agreement. It still has to be approved by the union members themselves. Do you get the sense that they will, in fact, sign off on these terms?
I think it does have a lot of support as it goes out to members. Remember, this is a deal with hard-fought wins for the workers, and one that the railroads were able, after moving quite a bit, to agree to. And it's a deal that enjoys the support of the administration after the president himself got involved, urging the parties to reach a deal, to do the moving that it took to find that deal space. So I do think as the next few weeks play out and it goes to the members, it's going to have a lot of momentum and a lot of propulsion to get through and to get finalized.
We'd heard a lot of the terms ahead of time. These were things that the White House panel had recommended, and that I believe the railroads themselves had signed off on, things like a 24% pay increase between the years 2020 and 2025 with something like, or I guess 2020 and 2024 with something like a 14% increase immediately, some big payouts that went along the way. But we'd also heard that some of the union membership was not okay with that. They wanted more paid sick days, more flexibility, more relief from the precision railroading that's out there. What were the specifics that kind of pushed this over the end goal?
That's right. They came in with a big pay increase over the full life of the contract. It comes to a 24% increase through that, I believe, 5-year stretch. But the issue that was still, or one of the key issues that was still outstanding, had to do with quality of life. Remember, for these railroad workers, it's very, very different than how it is for, if you work in an office. They'll be on call for several days at a time, and sometimes can't get even unpaid, let alone paid time off. If, for example, they need a medical appointment or something like that, they can't actually do that without incurring a penalty because of the way the attendance policies work in an industry that has now really reduced the number of workers to a level that it's not very resilient if anybody's unavailable for a day. So these issues, I think, became a real point of contention, a real concern for members and for the unions. And they were able at the table to win new accommodations on that, new ways to be able to get paid and unpaid time to take care of family matters, to take care of medical matters that need attention. There are a couple of other things related to their health care and other matters that needed to be resolved. And these were still being negotiated late into the night, but it took a turn. I think first when the president called personally, not the first time he'd engaged in this issue, but when he called into that room at the Department of Labor where Secretary Marty Walsh had convened people. They'd probably already been in there for more than 12 hours at that point, stressed the importance of getting to a deal. And then I got some indications of good news around 2 a.m. that they had hit a real turning point in the room. By 5 a.m., we were able to publicly share the good news.
On that day, it looked really tone deaf. I mean, what you're telling me, so just stick to the script. The economy is great. The border is secure. Our cities are safe. Wouldn't it be
no one's
better,
pretending
wouldn't
all
it
of
be
our
better to
problems are
just be
solved?
honest? Wouldn't it be better to just be honest with the American people about the soup that we're in right now, and we can all try to deal with it together instead of just...
Nobody's saying we don't have any problems, but if you don't pause and recognize the meaning of one of the most significant pieces of legislation so far in the 21st century, just because we also have a lot of other problems we're contending with as a country, then I think you're really feeding into a narrative that's pulling America down and holding America back. Of course, we have a lot more work to do in the fight against inflation, in the economy, and a number of things that need attention. But if we just ignore the significance of legislative achievements that some people thought were dead and buried just days before they actually happened, if we ignore what it means to have created 10 million jobs, most of any presidency in the history of the republic, if we ignore the momentum that has been built, then we're not doing our part to support people who are going to help us with the next.
It wasn't named the Climate Act. You deliberately, and some people would say erroneously, named it the Inflation Reduction Act, and you're celebrating it on the day when, again, we had 40-year highs in inflation. And you know how that affects people that, on the low end of things. It's like the most insidious problem that an economy can face. And it just
right.
to be
and
celebrating on that day.
The worst thing about inflation is that it means people are paying too much by definition for things. And what this bill does is allows people to pay less for things, paying less for energy, paying less for these home retrofits, paying less for prescription drugs. paying less for insulin if you're on Medicare. As you know, Republicans successfully blocked us from getting $35 a month insulin to everybody, but we were able to get it to Medicare recipients, and even paying less for electric vehicles. So this is part of the fight against the effects that inflation have on people. Look, we got to have a whole other conversation over a drink about how bills get named, the acronyms they come up with, the names we come up with. I get it. I mean, there are a lot of different things that are part of this bill, only some of which are related to inflation, but in my view, all of which are going to make a big, very positive and historic difference for the American people.
Let's talk about what's happening with the economy and the signs we're getting from some of these transportation companies. FedEx last night warning that its earnings were going to come in well below expectations. The CEO telling Jim Cramer that he sees weakness, severe weakness in Asia and Europe. That's really what caused it. But he says he also sees this coming to the United States. Are you hearing that from other companies that you're dealing with?
We're certainly clear-eyed about the headwinds that we're facing. We're seeing a lot of these concerns and questions coming up. Still a lot of growth, obviously still exceptionally low unemployment. But you look at the instability that there is, the consequences in Europe of the Ukraine war, the fact that we're still far from seeing the end of the ripple effects of the COVID and pandemic-related shocks. I think that it's not a surprise that you see this kind of uncertainty reported by some of these companies, and it's something we're closely watching and trying to deal with it to the extent that we can do anything helpful. For example, on the logistics side, with FedEx and some of their competitors and other companies involved in shipping as partners, we're working on making sure there's better data sharing in the logistics sector and in our supply chains, so that things are moving in a smoother way. Which, you know, whether you've got red hot economic growth or more normal times or even softness, it's going to be a good move that helps take some of the inefficiency out of the system.